7 years, and a guy talked me into doing a couple of years more. But I knew when I left UT I was going to do my thing in 7 years and I was going to be gone. I was going to disappear like a witch.
Why?
I don't know, it's just the way I wanted to do it. 7.
When NFL legends were asked about Earl Campbell, they didn't just give a quick answer without serious thought. How good was Earl Campbell? Picture this: Lawrence Taylor and John Elway sitting down together with Earl Campbell right in the middle of the split screen. That's the scene today, because some players change how football is played forever. Not just speed or skill, but raw, unbreakable power that made the greatest defenders in history question everything they thought they knew about tackling. If you're enjoying these legend stories, hit the hype feature and give hype to this video. It helps the channel grow and tells me to make more content like this. These were the most violent, most feared hitters ever to walk a football field. So what exactly happened when they faced Earl Campbell? The answer changed the entire sport forever. Number 1, Lawrence Taylor said something that stuck with everyone who heard it. You didn't tackle Earl Campbell. You survived him. You had to bring your whole soul into that hit, or he was going to walk right over you. That's not just talk. That's a confession from the most disruptive defensive player in NFL history. Taylor made his name being faster, stronger, and meaner than everybody else. His whole career was built on speed and violence that nobody could match. Yet when he talks about Earl, he's acknowledging that one man broke all the rules he lived by. This was a different breed of human being. Survival. That's what LT called facing Earl Campbell. When the greatest linebacker says you have to survive someone. Number 2, John Madden spent his entire life breaking down football. He coached the Raiders and broadcast for many decades, seeing every legendary player who ever suited up. Madden said something simple that explained everything. Earl Campbell didn't have gears. He only had demolition mode. Other running backs tried to slip past you or bounce outside. Earl tried to go through you. He ran over your face. Every single play looked like a violent car crash. Madden was fascinated by what he saw below the waist. From the waist down, Earl Campbell has the biggest legs I have ever seen on a running back. Those thighs measured 33 inches around, roughly the waist size of an average adult man. That's not normal. That's a biological anomaly requiring custom-made equipment. Houston manufacturers created a unique size classification just for Earl Campbell thigh pads. Not small, medium, or large, but Earl Campbell size. Number 3, Archie Manning watched from the Saints sideline as a member of the opposing team. He saw something that absolutely stood out from everything else on the field. Multiple defenders grabbed Earl's jersey, and it literally shredded in their hands as he powered forward. Campbell looked like the Incredible Hulk running down the field with half a shirt, defenders still hanging on him, holding scraps of fabric in desperation. This wasn't just a wild moment. It changed the sport forever in equipment terms. In 1979, the NFL officially banned tearaway jerseys. One man's physical power was so great that the league had to change uniform regulations across the board. That's what Archie Manning witnessed. That's the mark Earl left on football. Number 4, Jim Brown rarely gave praise to anyone. He was the standard bearer for running back dominance in history. But Jim Brown looked at Earl Campbell and said something that meant everything. He was the first guy I saw where I said, he runs like me. He didn't look for the sideline. He looked for the contact. He punished the people trying to tackle him. Earl studied those film sessions and made it his own philosophy. He understood that every yard gained while hurting a defender cost that defender's ability to stop him next time. 3 consecutive rushing titles, 3 straight years leading the entire league. Every defense knew exactly where he was headed, and they still couldn't stop him. Number 5, Dick Vermeil coached the Philadelphia Eagles during Earl's absolute peak years. He faced a problem no defensive coordinator knew how to solve. He called Earl a freak of nature. Campbell's abilities weren't something logic could contain or stop. Vermeil's answer to his defense was simple and honest. Don't let him get ahead of steam. If Campbell reached full speed, he became a one-man car crash. Defenses were forced into gang tackling. 3 or 4 men had to converge on him simultaneously, but every ounce of attention Earl commanded opened up everything else. The Oilers receivers had huge lanes because defenses had to dedicate so many bodies just to slow him down. Number 6. Jack Tatum earned the nickname the Assassin. He built his entire reputation on hits designed to incapacitate opponents. In 1978, he famously paralyzed Darryl Stingley in a preseason game. Tatum was the most feared hitter in the entire league. Then he collided with Earl Campbell at the goal line. Tatum described it as the hardest he had ever been hit in his life. The assassin, the man whose violence was his primary weapon, got hit harder than he ever hit anyone. Campbell felt the impact travel down and burn. Yet Campbell smiled at Tatum after the hit, a psychological masterstroke that said everything. Campbell demonstrated to the entire defense that their most violent weapon had completely failed against him. Number 7. Mike Singletary was a Hall of Fame linebacker for the Chicago Bears and one of the most feared hitters in the entire NFL history. Singletary described his first encounter with Earl Campbell as a transformative moment in his professional career. He hit Campbell as hard as possible, thought he had made the perfect tackle, and realized he was flat on his back while Campbell kept running forward. It was like trying to tackle a falling building made of steel. Once Earl's mass got moving, standard tackling mechanics fell apart completely. Leverage and momentum weren't enough to stop him. Singletary, a man who prided himself on physical dominance and technique, had to accept a new reality. Surviving wasn't the same as dominating anymore. Number 8. Bum Phillips coached the Houston Oilers and drafted Earl Campbell first overall in 1978. Phillips understood Earl differently than anyone else understood any player. I don't know if he's in a class by himself, but I do know that whatever class he's in, it doesn't take long to call the roll. That's saying Earl was so far above everyone that comparisons became pointless. When Campbell refused to run long distances in training camp, Phillips didn't argue or push the issue. If it's ever 4th and a mile, I won't give him the ball anyway. Phillips knew that Earl's value came from explosive, devastating power over short distances, not aerobic conditioning. He understood that while Earl might get up slow after being tackled, he went down slow too, exhausting defenders in the process. But the very thing that made Earl legendary became his curse. The impact philosophy, the refusal to avoid contact, the north and south running style, they all demanded a price. By the 1990s, people watched Earl walk like a 70-year-old man, a cane, a wheelchair, his own reflection of the past. At 48 years old, my body is saying, "Hey Earl, remember what you did to me? Football has got a price on it. There ain't a damn thing free in America." That's what Earl said when he looked back. Yet despite the cost, despite the mobility he lost, Earl Campbell remains the absolute gold standard for power running in football history. He forced the league to change rules. He broke defensive schemes that had worked for decades. He made the greatest defenders in history question what they were doing. From Lawrence Taylor's admission of survival to Bum Phillips' understanding of pure force, every legend who faced Earl Campbell came away knowing they'd met something beyond normal. That's why they still talk about him. That's why his name means something even now. He gave everything to his philosophy, creating a legacy of impact that is uniquely his own.